This is the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com. Episode 198, recorded March 15, 2019. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I am your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So, today we are going to be talking about The Magicians, Season 4, Episode 8. This is the episode in which Finn and Margot go on an excellent adventure.
Yes.
So that's kind of like, we have basically three main kind of plot lines going on. So I figured we'd start there with Finn and Margot on their excellent adventure.
Well,
I just think it's really funny that Finn's she's like found a purpose. She's like embraced the style for the quest, and
she sets off on her quest alone because, last episode Margot was like, kind of dismissive, and she was like, you do you. And so Finn sets off on her quest alone, and then Margot follows her, and Margot asks to come along with her, and Finn is kind of like, why do you care? Weren't you basically just go do whatever? Like, you didn't care.
Well, that was the funny thing, was just how into it Finn was. Like, how into, going on a quest she was.
Oh, yeah. Like Finn finally felt important, right? You could tell, this is important to her because she feels important now that she has this quest.
Yeah. And then the second Margot gets in on it, she's upset because it's diminishing her role.
Yeah, exactly.
So Finn and Margot end up finding who they assume is this woman in green from Finn's dreams.
Well, she's got the profile, she's got the green hood, seems to be the person from their dreams.
And Margot's not buying it. She's like, this isn't Mr. Miyagi.
Well, no, because she comes across as a dime store psychic, right? So she comes across I sense you are searching for something. And Margot's well, that's pretty obvious. Yeah. And Finn's buying it, though. Finn is totally 100% buying this woman's bullshit. Right. And Margot is just not. And so, and basically what she's doing, she's having them do chores for her. And Finn is all into it. She's doing these chores and she is all into it. 100% believing this woman.
Yeah. Margot eventually outs the woman, by force, gets her to admit that this location that shows up in people's dreams has caused all sorts of people to journey looking for the answer to having chased this woman in their dreams. And they have caused her so much grief that now she just manipulates them into doing chores for her. What's funny though is that she tells them the identity of this green cloaked woman is Napster.
Yeah, is the Napster.
Yeah.
I love Margot's line because well, first of all, there's this running gag where Finn is making these pop culture references and Margot's impressed because when they're doing the chores for the woman, Finn is oh, so this is like Mr. Miyagi. So wait, but Mr. Miyagi was having Daniel-san do chores to teach him to be better at karate so that he could fight the Cobra Kai. And Mario was like, when did you watch The Karate Kid? And then after when the woman mentions the Napster, Finn is just oh, the music service. And then I forgot the guy's name. She's yeah, I met the guy who made it in a coffee shop. And Margot is just I underestimated you, Finn. and then Margot says one of the best lines in the entire episode. Margot goes, I never thought I would have to say this, but it's time to shut down the Napster.
It's funny. So they end up figuring out that Finn would wake up whenever she'd be near to catching the cat, like creature, the napster.
That's like Margot says, I hate Fillory for making me have to say this, but we have to shut down the napster. But yeah. So Finn has to capture the napster in her dreams.
Yes. And she keeps waking up whenever she's near it, so she ends up not waking up, and the napster's like, "Why aren't you waking up?" And she said, "Margot gave me a potion called Ambien."
And the napster is revealed to be this skinless cat-like creature.
Well, not skinless, like furless.
Furless.
That would have been even creepier.
That would have been a sight. It's a furless cat, humanoid furless cat. And basically she has something to stir. I guess it's a she, right? Well, whatever. She gives Finn some disturbing prediction, which is...
Well, first she says that she could enlighten Finn as to Margot's destiny, or she could do her destiny.
Oh, yeah.
And she's kind of pushing Finn to pick her own destiny, basically like insinuating like, oh, you're just always going to be Margot's sidekick and stuff. Basically to force Finn into going like, oh, okay, I want to hear my destiny then.
Right.
And so instead of getting Margot's destiny, they get Finn's destiny, which is that she's going to have to depose Margot, and there's going to be a point in which she has to do it, even if it comes to bloodshed.
Right. And I don't know if you can trust this napster creature, you know. Like,
I don't know if I trust this napster thing. I think it's just going to give you a virus.
I don't know. To me, it seems pretty sketch. You know, this thing is running around in your dreams, and suddenly it tells you to like kill your queen. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the obvious point of not trustfulness is when it was like obviously trying to push Finn into her path rather than Margot's, which she had gone there for.
Right. But if she picked Margot, she would have said something like, "Oh, well, you know," she probably was still manipulated it so that Finn would have to kill her. Right.
Yeah, perhaps. So the next storyline besides that it's a smaller storyline, which is, kind of has to do with Katie.
Yeah.
So in the last episode, we knew that Penny from the regular timeline, Dead Penny, had told Penny 23 to deliver a message to Katie, just basically to say that he loved her, you know, and to move on and stuff. So he does that. Katie is kind of even worse off having gotten the message than she was before, because it's like, she doesn't accept it as like, oh, okay, it gives me closure. It's more like, oh, so he's not going to try. He's not going to leave, you know?
Yeah. So he's not even going to try and come back, you know? And she's like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah, so it doesn't, instead of giving her closure, it just makes her more upset.
It just twists the knife more.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
So Katie, still kind of like trying to find some sense of purpose, ends up figuring out that she can help Quentin and Julia find this this next monster organ or whatever it is that the monster's been collecting. She can find the location of it because she's recently come back into contact with this guy Pete, who we'd seen as far back as like the first season of The Magicians, when we were kind of introduced to the Hedge Witches. He was the guy that like was kind of attacking Julia that one time.
Yeah,
to force her to use magic.
He was Marina's top lieutenant.
Yes. Now he goes by the name Love Lady. And he's kind of working in the magical black market for for the hedge witches. And so he's made connections and stuff, and through those he's telling them, you know, oh, well, this item now, it's in the ownership of a dragon. And he is like, you know, like, it's this big news, it's a dragon. And Julia's like, yeah, we've already talked to like 2 or 3.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, what?
Quentin's like, yeah, I've already talked to a dragon, you know, like they're not acting impressed, you know.
Yeah. So he says, yeah, you need to find the herald of this dragon, and you need to bring something to trade.
And so they find the herald of the dragon, and the herald's name is Harold.
Which he says he got the job through a confusing job ad.
Yeah.
So apparently he saw his name in a job ad and thought, you know, hey, I'm Harold.
Yeah.
And became the herald for this dragon. So, literally.
Like 2016.
Oh my god, YouTube. Okay, sorry about that.
So, when they're talking to the herald for this dragon, they don't really have much to offer, but they realize that, you know, there's something going on, and that the dragon had something stolen, like an elixir that was stolen from her. And they say, we can find it. And he's like doubtful. He's like, yeah, whatever. And they see this like dart that was used to steal this elixir, and Quentin recognizes it as having come from Fillory. And
Right.
So he's already kind of got like a clue as to where to go to look for this, even though the herald doesn't, you know, believe that they're gonna be able to make any progress on it. So they go, this leads them to Poppy,
Well,
who
yeah.
we last saw last season, Felicity's character.
Yep, Felicia. Yeah, Poppy. She is hanging out in the physics kids cabin, you know.
Yeah, she's hanging out there. She's kind of taken over it.
And she's kind of taking over it. And also she has a big surprise because she is very, very pregnant.
Yep. And so they end up, you know, when everybody's kind of brought into the secret, Quentin is the first one that's brought into this. When everybody else is, Quentin's kind of like helping her out. He's like bringing sand because she wants to feel like she's on a beach.
Well, we get the impression like Quentin believes it's his child.
Yes. And he's like instantly just taking on like trying to nurture and you know, help out.
Yeah.
When they, you know, from prying information into this, they eventually find out, like, no, this isn't Quentin's child.
Oh,
it's a dragon.
They find dragon porn.
Yeah. Well, and they end up finding out is that the elixir is, dragon cum.
Dragon riders of porn.
And so they find out Poppy impregnated herself with a baster.
Yeah, with
the dragon.
They're full of dragon cum.
So now they're like, okay, well, how does this work? You know, is this going to tear a hole through? She's like, it's unprecedented.
And we find out that Quentin is acting all fatherly because anybody who comes into contact with the dragon baby becomes magically compelled to protect it and nurture it.
Yes. But we find out that this is also a lie.
Yes.
Not the part about Quentin, but like about her being pregnant with a dragon is also a lie because she's actually used it on an egg.
Yeah, so it was dragon cum, alright, and there is a baby dragon, and there was an impregnation happening, but it wasn't her. She used it to impregnate a dragon's egg. Which she basically says, all you need to do is like just spray it on an egg to impregnate it.
Turn it into a dragon egg, yeah.
Yeah.
So, now, we find out about this egg and they go to kind of like, you know, take it so that they can return it to the dragon.
Penny.
And, Penny grabs it.
Yeah.
And hilariously is like, I kind of want to look at it.
Yeah. He hands it to Julia. And yeah, so Penny's under the spell. Penny hands it to Julia and Julia takes it and runs because she is not susceptible to the spell due to her god status.
It's her and Katie that kind of run because Katie ends up pulling her gun and threatening to shoot the egg.
Well, Katie never touches it. So that's good. But Julia grabs it, and Julia can't be influenced by the magic.
Yeah, she's immune to the magic of it. So this is funny because like when they're stealing the egg, Quentin's like, "No, give me back Falcor."
Yeah. Quentin has already named it Falcor.
So this is the moment which we find out that Quentin is also a never-ending story nerd.
Yes. like if there was any previous doubt, we learned beyond a shadow of a doubt this episode that Quentin is full nerd. Okay.
We already knew that, but now we have a new topic for his
now it's like proven. Okay. If there was any doubts before, those doubts have been squashed.
I'd say it was proven like I think it was in season 2 when they had where Penny entered his dream and he was like Indiana Jones, like. But yeah. Anyways, like, Quentin wants the dragon Falcor back.
Yeah.
And, they end up getting the egg back to the dragon, who is kind of like I'm not ready to be a mother. And we find out it's a different dragon's egg, but she takes the egg. She's like, oh, it'll be bad for that other dragon, but she takes it, and the kind of magic wears off on everybody, and she ends up giving them the stone that they need, that organ or whatever it is.
That organ that they needed. Yeah.
And also the herald imparts a message for her from the dragon.
For Julia, yeah.
Yes.
Which basically Julia has to fix her god status.
Yeah, she has to make it temporary. You know, her current condition needs to be temporary. And the dragon says that the way to do this is she needs to find the binder.
She needs to find the binder. And then Julia's like, and did the dragon go into elaborate detail on what that means?
And the herald just kind of smiles and walks away.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the other kind of big plot going on. We had mentioned Katie leading into this plot. There's also...
we're also forgetting the scene where Poppy and Quentin, basically after they're coming down from the spell, you know, Poppy reveals that she is pregnant with a human baby, you know, to the point beyond to where she can abort it. And she also reveals to Quentin that it is in fact not Quentin's child.
Well, it's also, she talks about how she had no interest in the child.
Right.
That she was only holding it to term because it slipped past her, the point of abortion had slipped past her. And she just figured, oh, I'll just give it up to some family.
Right.
And, like being magically possessed to be nurturing to this dragon's egg has made her like want to be nurturing to the baby inside her.
Yes.
And so she's kind of like had a turn there. And when she tells Quentin that it's not his baby, she asks, did you want it to be?
Yeah.
And she asks him if he ever wants to have kids, and he mentions
he does.
Which on a show like The Magicians almost seems like a death flag. Like, last couple episodes, they've been pointing out how he might not be the main character, and now they're saying that he might want to have kids.
Right.
Kind of seems like the death flag's being planted, but who knows?
Who knows where they're going with that? But Poppy just responds to that with, you know, that he could be the godfather.
Yes, he's going to be the godfather for her kid. Katie got involved in this mess, but she had some more going on as well, which is
she was dealing with love. I forgot
with Love Lady, Pete. She has to deal with kind of the fallout of the Hedge Witches. She's kind of like not even having taken it on. She's kind of like becoming the de facto leader of the Hedge Witches.
Well, she kind of like gets into an argument with Love Lady, and then, you know, she's like basically like, you're a creep, you know, why should I trust you? And then he points out that, you know, like if anything, he's loyal. He says he was extremely loyal to Marina, and then he suggests, you know, he says, you know, I could be loyal to you if you deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically offering, Katie, like basically saying, you can be a new leader to the Hedge Witches if you want.
Well, he's not even just like offering it or something. He's like pushing.
Yeah.
Like he wants her to take that role. He's saying you need to kind of like leave your friends behind and take up this cause,
Yeah. Yeah.
And she doesn't really want to do it, but she does kind of impart like a hard truth onto Pete about what he needs to do, which is she says that the Hedge Witch, or that the library is coming after the Hedge Witches now because of what happened in Modesto, at the library being destroyed by the Hedge Witches. And she says it might not be what you want it to be, but you need to turn in Whitley, the woman who ended up doing that.
Yes.
Because they know that she did it, and by doing that, she got revenge on it. Yes, the library is on the wrong here, but she's put all of the Hedge Witches in the crosshairs of the library by doing that. And that the only way to get them out of that is to turn her in. To get the heat off them, and then they can work towards what they could do to get back at the library or something. But they can't just, do that while they're on the run and being like taken out one by one by the library, who's at a major advantage over them. So Pete doesn't really want to hear this. He's kind of arguing with her about it, saying like, but they are in the wrong and stuff. But she's kind of showing leadership in the sense that she's like, yeah, it doesn't matter if they're in the wrong or not. This is about survival, and everybody's going to be hunted down if you don't do this.
Yeah, exactly. So
we see like Katie kind of reluctantly falling into that role. Like she's still denying the role as a leader for the Hedge Witches, but she's already like making decisions, like leadership decisions.
Yeah, she's already making leadership decisions. And so I think that's where her path is leading. We're going to see her more and more take leadership of the Hedge Witches, I think that's where that story is going. The last story in the episode is the story between Alice and her mom.
Well, we saw Alice at the end of the last episode. Zelda was asking her for help, and we know, this is kind of mentioned off screen, so they didn't like have to recap everything, but we knew going into this episode that what Zelda needed Alice's help with had to do something with that mirror universe.
Right.
So Alice, having been there as a Niflheim and having gotten around, she needed her help with something. So it's her, Zelda, Alice, and Dean Fogg, basically.
Yeah.
In Dean Fogg's office talking about what can be done. Alice had gone to Dean Fogg's office to look for help to find Sheila, her new friend that she made in Modesto, who was taken by the library. Zelda, working for the library, wants Alice's help for this to try to help find her daughter. Alice is saying, well, we can't just like throw around magic in the mirror dimension because that's not how it works there. Yeah. And it just ends up becoming a hindrance. Things go like horribly wrong when you try to do it. Dean Fogg actually kind of has a plan, a spell in mind that could help them.
Well, we should mention the deal that Alice makes, because Alice isn't just going to do this. Dean Fogg.
Well, the thing is Alice isn't just negotiating for a deal. Like Dean Fogg's like pitching in, like, oh, don't forget to also ask for this, because
don't forget to also ask for this. So Alice wants, she wants Sheila's book.
Yeah. She wants Sheila back.
Yeah.
From the library, and Dean Fogg suggests that, you should also ask for Sheila's book so you can bury it so that they can't track her.
They can't track her, yeah.
So Zelda kind of like taken back aback a little bit at Dean Fogg kind of helping Alice in the situation.
Dean Fogg says also that they want an extra month's ration.
Yes, he takes some for himself too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the terms are all agreed to. They agree to it, but Dean Fogg says to Alice, like, this is something that you're going to need to do. You're the only one of the three of us who can do this, but you're not going to like it. And to do this spell that they need. It turns out that it's a spell that she has to cast with her mother, and it has to do with the bond between a mother and daughter.
It's basically she's enchanting this item to be like a locator, but the spell requires that special bond between a mother and a daughter to work.
Yes. And Alice ends up going to her mom, they have a real contentious relationship. But her mom agrees.
Yeah, her mom agrees. Unfortunately, it's not that easy because their contentious relationship prevents the spell from working.
Yeah, Alice's mom is blaming Alice, saying that you're all thumbs and you can't, do the spell right. And Alice is blaming her mom, saying it's because you're not motherly, and you don't have that role with me, so it's your fault that it's not working. Before Alice's mom agreed to help, she had said that she had other plans, that she had somebody that was coming by. So while they're working on it, they're kind of struggling in a few different areas. One is that the magic is being monitored by the library, the ambient magic being used. So they can't just keep attempting over and over again because it's going to be noticed.
Right, exactly.
The second is that, she has a guest coming over that we end up finding out is somebody who has a little bit of history with Alice. It's not going to be too happy with Alice.
Right.
That might be a risk of turning Alice into the library. But what we end up finding out is very, very quickly is that as all three women come to terms with them all being there, Alice, her mom, and this friend that Alice's mom had plans for previously, the librarians show up outside the house. Alice sets off the borders that her father's security system that he had put in place to block anybody from coming in, including travelers, because it's the traveler from the library is one of the librarians there. And Alice is immediately blaming her mom, saying, I can't believe you called the library on me, that you're turning me into the library. And she's like hating on her for this. And it ends up coming out. She ends up revealing to Alice that she didn't turn in Alice. She was turning in the other woman.
Turning in the other woman to the library.
To which the other woman's like overhears and is like, what? Turns out the other woman has her own history with the library because they don't like her business, which she's creating like a love version of like voodoo dolls, which under the pretenses of, a love version of voodoo doll could still just be used as a straight up voodoo doll.
Right.
And that's what they don't like about it. So that also ends up being kind of the only way that they can stop, the librarians long enough for her to kind of get away. And with Alice knowing that it was her that was being tracked and not, Alice herself, that, once she leaves, it's not an issue for Alice anymore. So she ends up getting away. They end up successfully getting off their spell, that they were failing before because Alice and her mom now have like a trust in that Alice knows her mom didn't give up on her. And by that being the case, it means that Alice is the one that had given up on her mom previously, and that's why the magic wasn't working. Right. It wasn't her mom, it was her. And her mom's like, so what you're saying is I'm right.
What you're saying is it wasn't my fault. It was your fault. Like.
So, like, even though now there's like some love in their relationship, it's still contentious. And so she takes off. She meets back up with Zelda and Dean Fogg and is like, here's your thing. Now give me back my friend. Sheila shows up, but she is dressed like a librarian.
In fact, she's joined the library.
Yes.
So Zelda delivers on her promises, but it's twisted in a way Alice didn't expect. First of all, she delivers Sheila back to Alice, but Sheila's become a member of the library, a full true believer.
Yeah.
Alice is disgusted by this. Another thing is that Zelda also promises Alice that Sheila's book is safe in the poison room.
Yeah, all librarians' books are in the poison room.
Yep, are in the poison.
And so they can't be checked even by other librarians.
Yeah. So it's kind of like she delivered on Alice's demands, but they're twisted in a way Alice did not expect.
Yes.
It's not exactly what Alice wanted.
Alice is not happy about it, but she kind of comes to some kind of terms with it.
Yeah, she comes to some kind of terms with it.
And Dean Fogg's like, "Oh, I'm out of here."
Yeah. He's just dismissive. Dean Fogg's just an asshole.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, some plot moving forward, some funny moments. Not necessarily the greatest episode this season.
No.
Especially after last episode with the way they used a framing device in such an interesting way.
Right.
I still think the best part of the episode is Quentin screaming after the egg, "Falcor!"
Yeah, Falcor!
His supreme geekery is delightful. And that's why he is the true main character of the series.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's it for this week's Magicians. We'll talk about it again next week as well. Until then, here's what's coming up in the week ahead. So as we're recording this, it is Friday, March 15th, 2019. Shrill has come out on Hulu. Catastrophe has returned to Amazon Prime. If I Hadn't Met You has debuted on Netflix, as has Love, Death, and Robots, which looks really cool from the trailers. I want to check that out. The Mafia Dolls, Turn Up Charlie, which is the new comedy from Idris Elba, and the final half of I think it's season 5 of Arrested Development, so the second half of that. Then on Saturday, March 16th, Green Door comes out on Netflix. On Sunday, March 17th, Billions returns to Showtime. On Monday, March 18th, The Fix comes to ABC and 911 returns to Fox. On Tuesday, March 19th, The Village returns to NBC. On Wednesday, March 20th, The Act comes to Hulu. Pretty Little Liars, The Perfectionist, a new spinoff, comes to Freeform. Step Up High Water returns for its second season on YouTube Premium, because that's what we all wanted on that network. And then on Friday, March 22nd, 2019, Cardinal comes back to Hulu. Carlo and Malik to Netflix. Crime Diaries, The Candidate to Netflix. Delhi Crime to Netflix. Most Beautiful Thing to Netflix. And The OA returns to Netflix. Did you ever watch The OA?
Nope.
It's kind of fascinating. And I was kind of worried, like I didn't like the end until I realized there was a second season. Because at first I was like, the way it ends, I was kind of like, I don't like that as an ending. And then when I found out there was a second season, I'm like, oh, okay, now this actually means that it could be kind of interesting.
Right.
Because it kind of almost came across like it was a conclusive ending. But like the only way they could go around that to do a second season kind of calls all of those conclusions into question in a way that makes it actually interesting. So I'm kind of excited for the second season. It's a beautifully shot series. Like it just looks really gorgeous. And so yeah, that's coming back to Netflix on next Friday.
Good.
But that's it for this week. Next week, as I mentioned, we're going to continue talking about season 4 of The Magicians. Until then, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel, as well as some other additional content. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best